Well, what this made me think of when I read it this morning, Tom,
Mhm.
is writing dialogues with yourself.
Yeah.
I heard from a friend on Twitter that they didn't want to be here anymore, or they were having very depressed thoughts. And
Hmm.
my response wasn't a suggestion to write a dialogue between the two voices, competing voices over a decision like that. Do I want to be here? Do I
Hmm.
not want to be here?
Hmm. Hmm.
But could that be a constructive exercise for somebody in the throes of depression, somebody with a lot of, shame, self-defeating feelings, to just kind of play it out, articulate the voices in contrast to each
Yeah.
other? And yeah, could you just like speak to that for a bit?
Yeah. Anything that can get the person uh, sort of deeper into what the content of what's going on inside. Now, one of the things with somebody who is possibly suicidal, I wouldn't, yeah, your judgment was the same as mine would be. I'm not gonna set something up that's going to be a debate because the implication being that the dark voice might win. If you're a friend, what you can say is, I'm willing to read this if you're willing to write it. Writing is how I think. Write down those dark thoughts that you're having. A lot of times people are, including therapists, get really nervous when somebody is talking about depression to that level and thinking about suicide. And I always think, if you can't talk about that, if you can't talk about this existential angst, that we all, to be or not to be, in therapy, then what good is it? Clients will rightfully so have the experience. I mean, will not talk about it because they are afraid that their therapist is going to go into immediate um, cover your ass mode for liability. But I want people to know that it's okay to talk about that. It's okay. And I think those of us who've experienced that before, of the desire, either whether it's an active suicidal thought or if it's just that what I call a more passive suicidal nature of just not wanting to be here, we need to help somebody listen to that voice, and we can listen with them if they'll do that.
Beyond that, this principle of writing out your inner dialogues, how did you
Mm-hmm.
first come to that? Or like, when did you first start to see kind of like the constructive quality to it?
One of the first times that I ever used the dialogue stuff was just with my own inner should monster, that condemning voice that most of us have some version of. What I would tell somebody, it doesn't mean you're going to write this dialogue and then you're all of a sudden going to know the answer to it. But what you're doing is something that we basically don't do nearly enough, and we're letting both ideas fully express themselves. I had a client not long ago that was looking at making a geographic move. They were thinking about moving to a couple of different places, and they really had strong attraction to both of them. And so what I had them do is a little bit less than dialogue, but what I had them do is write a position paper for each of those two cities. And I said, and the rule was, just let that part of you, the one that wants to go to X, just says, this is why we've decided to go to X. And the one that wants to go to Y just said just that. And it's amazing when you actually and I think this would be true also and I think it was in this example with this young man who was thinking about whether he wanted to leave his marriage or not, is when you write it out and you let those thoughts and those opinions and those feelings be fully expressed, you're going to have more clarity. I mean, in the case of the person who was trying to decide where to go, she read both her position papers to me, and by the time she finished them, she and I both knew where she was moving, because it was just clear in what she had written. Too often we're trying to keep some thoughts down. We're scared of those. I don't want those thoughts. It's just like interpersonally. If you don't let somebody be heard, they're going to keep trying to talk. People often will say, the expression is, it's okay if you talk to yourself as long as you don't answer back. Well, I figure it is what I do for a living is teach people how to answer back. I have a little sign on my desk in my office that says, always reserve the right to disagree with yourself.